get the idea for the TV replay screen, and do you find yourself taking a peek over there after a snap?
Yeah, just I know some other teams use that around the league. I've talked to some of our players. I know Josh Jacobs, for example, he said he's used it with the Raiders. It's something that we wanted to experiment with. Whether or not we use it in training camp, kind of wait and see, but it is something that I think we'd like to explore for the regular season.
What is the potential benefit just to see what went right, what went wrong in the play immediately?
Absolutely. I think you get instant feedback. I think the more immediate the feedback, the more beneficial it could be. Certainly when you're in season, I think it's a little bit easier to use in terms of usually you're operating in like a block, like 5 or 6 plays where the offense is up, then the defense is up, and it'll allow you to look at some things. And so that's just, we wanted to experiment with it today.
Does the video replay show that you might need to move Zane Anderson to receiver after that?
Yeah, heck of a day, huh? Anytime you come out with 1 pick, let alone 3, I'd say that's a pretty good day.
Seasons he's been having for you. And when a guy has a day like that, how do you perceive that as a coach?
Yeah, I think it was certainly, he did a great job. I think some of those, one of those in particular was definitely a gift but he made the layup. So, yeah, I think overall, I think Zane's, he always approaches it the right way and gives great effort. And I think, he started to gain some confidence as a player last season, especially on defense, and then to see him get more opportunities on defense and go out there and make plays, I think that's exciting. And it's a heck of a competition just with the caliber of players that we have in that room. Obviously, with X not being here today, that gave more opportunities for really all those guys to get out there and show what they can do.
What have you learned about the kickoff return, kickoff coverage after practicing it for however many weeks now?
There's going to be a lot of unknowns, and you're going to have to adjust on the fly. I think the one thing that is very apparent to me is it certainly seems like there's going to be a lot of potential collisions within that 5-yard area. So we'll just see how that plays out. I think in terms of just there's a lot of bodies in there in a very confined space, if you will, and so it'll be interesting to see how people scheme that up in order to try to run people free, whether it's picking off people or whatever it may be.
Do you consider the penalty for kicking in the end zone, the extra 5 yards to the 30, is that very severe, or could you see a lot of teams just opting to do that instead?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you want to do that, but if need be, maybe you do it.
The Chiefs have said they're experimenting with not having their kicker Butker, they have like a position player kicking. Have you guys looked into that at all?
That's something that we've talked about. We just haven't quite gotten to that point yet.
Matt, with Keyshawn, Jair, and Xavier, are those guys just excused from this? They were
excused, and because the way I view the minicamp is it's an extension of OTAs. I mean, it's just gotta. I know that if we wanted to make it mandatory for everybody, certainly those are 3 guys that have workout bonuses in their contract, and they fulfilled their requirements and did a really good job and actually exceeded what they could have done. So for those guys that did that, we gave them the opportunity.
In what ways are these 2 practices any different than OTAs? Are you doing more 11-on-11, or is there anything different at all?
There was a couple things that we did differently. We had a move the ball period, an unscripted move the ball period, which we haven't done this season or this off season. And then, but for the most part, I would say the way we structured our days, it's been pretty much similar.
Is there anything you want to do over the next 2 days before guys do leave and then come back for training camp?
I want to get out of these next 2 practices. I want to make sure we're healthy. That's what I want to get out of them. And I mean, like anytime you have an opportunity to go out there and practice football, I mean, that's something that's really hard to do when you're by yourself or over the course of the next 5 weeks. Yeah, you can work on your fundamentals and individual drills, but I mean, there's nothing like playing 11-on-11. So it is good for us, especially for a lot of our younger guys, to get out there, maximize those reps. Certainly, there's a lot of learning that's taken place over the course of 9 weeks, and then just at this stage of the game, there's not a ton of install that's going in. So we felt like it was a good way to test these guys, to have some call it periods that's not written out on the script.
Pretty much moved Morgan all over the line since he's been here. Just what have you seen from him and just how he's responded in the short time he's been here?
Yeah, I think certainly he's got a long way to go in terms of just mentally. I think physically he has all the tools that you look for, and we're going to keep pushing him. And that's what he's got to understand that. And I think for rookies, it's just everybody has a different learning curve in terms of how fast they can acclimate themselves to just how we play at this level. And but I think he's approaching it the right way, and we're going to continue to push him.
Speaking of rookies, again, I know these guys aren't winning jobs and it's open competitions, but you draft Cooper and you draft Bullard as high as you did for a reason. How much do they benefit from this offseason so far, and where are they each in their kind of development?
Yeah, I think we've seen improvement from them each and every day. And it's not only improvement on the field, it's just doing all the little things the right way, just making sure you're training the right way, you're eating the right way, you're getting the proper rest. All that is so important. I think that's just, that's part of that learning curve. It's not only what you do on the field, it's what you do off the field as well.
Matt, what did you think of just the offseason that Carrington put together, both with kind of the way he came back and then also just all these OTAs and minicamps have gone?
I think it's been outstanding. I think that's a guy that stands out, quite frankly, in my mind, in terms of just we challenged him to put on some weight after the regular season. He came back, and he definitely looks bigger, and he is bigger, and he's stronger, and the guy loves football. He loves to compete, and I'm excited for him. I think he's got a really bright future.
Have you noticed growth from him just since he's gone back from the off season, and in what ways have you kind of noticed him grow? Obviously, you said physically, but
yeah, physically he's night and day, I would say. But just in terms of all the little fundamentals, obviously there's some different things that we're asking these guys to do from a defensive perspective, and I think he's approached it the right way. The one thing you can always count on him is when he goes out there to compete, he's going to give it his all. And I think when you approach it that way, you make huge jumps, huge improvements. So he's really pushing the guys in front of him, and it's exciting because we've got a lot of different guys, I feel like, in particular in the back end at the corner position to go in there and play ball for us.
It looked like Kenneth might have had a couple sacks today. What sort of growth have you seen from him in just his first year playing football?
Yeah, it's amazing. We were talking about that a couple weeks ago in one of the team meetings. I mean, I would say it's exponential how much he's improved, and which is to be expected when you've never played football before. So, and again, another guy that's just he is a joy to be around. He's a great dude. He can definitely light up the room. He's a little quiet at times, but I think all the guys love him in that locker room.
Is it nice to have someone like that who offers such a completely different perspective? Kind of makes you fall back in love with football.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's his mentality, his attitude is definitely contagious. Like I said, he's just a great dude, and he's definitely earned the respect of everybody in that locker room.
Hey, Matt, we spent a lot of time last week talking about not having necessarily a number one wide receiver, and you've got a ton of guys that are in that mix. And we talked about Bo. We haven't talked much about Heath all offseason. He obviously had a touchdown today. Where do you kind of think he is in year two, and what do you kind of see as his role in that group?
Yeah, I think Malik's another guy that certainly he had some really bright moments for us last year, making some tough catches, doing some dirty work, some key blocks. And I think physically he's in a much better place. He's a little bit lighter. I think he knows the offense a heck of a lot better, so it allows you to play faster. You can move him around a little bit more. So we're really excited to see him and what he can do once we get to the preseason in those game-like situations.
The injuries to Zach Tom and Tucker and weightlifting, I mean, did you ask a lot of questions? Did you just decide that that was just an incredible coincidence? Any procedure changes or?
Yeah, there were some things that we definitely adjusted. I think anytime that, I mean, injuries are going to happen on the field. You never want them to happen off the field. So when things like that happen, I do think it was more coincidence than anything else. But yeah, certainly you will adjust certain things in order to try to mitigate as much risk as you possibly can. But at the end of the day, activity is activity, and whether you're in the weight room, whether you're out there, you know, running on the grass by yourself or in an 11-on-11 drill, it can happen, and it happens, you know, all the time in our sport. Whether it's our sport or other sports, it's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. But I think you always try to mitigate the risks as much as possible.
Have you adjusted your own workouts?
I'm getting there. I'm getting back. I'm almost back. Can almost do a push-up.
Do you think that those two guys are on track, like the timing that we've talked about with both of them?
Yeah, I think they're doing great. I mean, you see, I don't know if you saw Tucker was moving around doing lifts. I think you just watched Zach Tom move around. I think both those guys are in a good spot. Certainly, you'd love for them to be out there and working on their craft instead of you know, having a rehab back. But I think those are two dudes I'm not overly concerned about, and just in terms of how they approach the game. Certainly they're still very young players, but they've gotten a lot of play time, and can't wait to get them back in camp.
What do you like about what the new strength staff has been doing? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, I think our guys have seen a lot of growth, you know, physically, and there's definitely, they bring a lot of energy, not only to practice, but in the weight room, everything they do. I think, you know, there's definitely a youthfulness with the group, and I think they are able to connect and relate to our players pretty well.
Matt, how has Michael Pratt been picking up the offense, and what have you kind of seen from him as a leader on the field?
Yeah, I think, you know, he's another guy. I think anytime you talk about the quarterback position, there's so much information thrown at these guys, and it's a big learning curve. But I think much as how we saw Sean adjust, I think OTAs, you're just, it's survival mode, because you're drinking basically water out of a fire hose, and you're just trying to survive out there. And I think these next 5 weeks will be good for him to kind of like decompress a little bit, take what he's learned. He's going to have to stay in the book, and help. Hopefully, it'll help him digest it a little bit better, so that when he gets to training camp, he's ready to roll. He's done a nice job. I'm not trying to say he hasn't. It's just, you know, you don't get as many reps as you'd like to at that position. That's why we like to do a lot of the two spots, and today we're short in a couple of areas, so we didn't do that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to when he gets back to camp, and he's already gone through it once, learned basically the entire install, and to go through it again a second time, I think it will be really beneficial for him.
What does it give you to have two young guys behind Jordan like that with him and Sean?
Two young guys behind Jordan. I mean, I think both those guys are talented dudes, and I'm excited to see what they can do in game situations.
How have you seen the defense picking up Jeff's scheme in this so far this offseason?
Yeah, I think the defense has been doing a great job. I think everybody's been dialed in. Certainly, it helps having everybody here for the entirety of the offseason, and I'm just excited to see how we adapt throughout the course of the season.
Sean was on Kay Adams and just talked about how he likes that Jeff has that defensive backs coach background. Have you noticed from that unit that they really just kind of vibe with that, the fact that he does have that background?
Yeah, I mean, it's a passing league, and I think the more you can do from a disguise perspective can kind of help you. And certainly he's going to naturally gravitate more towards the defensive backs, because that's what he's coached. for the majority of his career. So I think the rapport that he has with those guys, I think has been really, really solid.
What about the rapport he has with you? The other thing Keyshawn mentioned on that podcast was how you two go at each other and the competitiveness.
Yeah, I don't know what I was busting his chops today. I was like, I don't know what you meant by that, but yeah.
And when you guys go against each other in practice, like, is that a healthy thing? Are you kind of like him?
What's funny about it is I don't know if I've called a play this entire offseason. You know, I've called a couple defensive plays in 2-minute situations, but I haven't called any offensive plays, so there really hasn't. There's always good conversation back and forth, certainly, and just, hey, why are you doing this? Whether he's asking me or I'm asking him, and we always have great conversation, great dialogue, and I mean that's just what you do. You try to help each other improve, and you know he's been a lot of fun to work with and get to know on a deeper level, and you know, I got a lot of respect for him. It's not a surprise to me as why he's had so much success in his career, just being around him. He's a smart dude that loves football and is willing to work.
Is it just Steno calling the offensive plays, or are you letting a bunch of guys?
No, Steno's been handling it, and Jay Love as well. We've let Jordan call some of the stuff as well in some of those 2-minute situations.
Giving up play calling though, are you?
That is not an option right now. Although I've said it many times, I feel like we do such a good job. We work collaboratively together. You know, all of us are in constant communication on the headset. So I feel like we kind of do it together anyway.
Is that a meaningful step forward for Jordan though? Did you not give him as many? I know in game situations it's a little different, but is that something different here?
Yeah, I just want him to experience it a little bit more, and so we put him in some of those 2-minute situations. I just want to see kind of what he was thinking.
Is the calling defensive plays new from the past? Is this the first
Yeah,
time?
it was more or less Sean Clifford and I were going back and forth, and I said, all right, I'm going to call the 2-minute defense, and that's how that happened.